Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
He bought the Washington Post to have political influence. He wants political influence so that Amazon will benefit from it. That's not right. And believe me, if I become president, oh, do they have problems. They're going to have such problems.
Welcome back to AM Joy. Well, Donald Trump is apparently making good on the threat he made to Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos back in 2016. According to the Washington Post, citing 3 people familiar with the conversations, Trump has tried on multiple occasions to pressure the U.S. Postmaster General to double the shipping rates on Amazon this year, a move that could potentially cost the company billions. Trump's beef with Bezos goes way back. Trump claims Amazon's low shipping rates come at the expense of the Postal Service. But the Post General says Amazon is actually helping the Postal Service, accounting for up to a quarter of the revenue from the part of the Postal Service business that falls outside of delivering your daily mail. In the short version, the delivering your mail part of the Postal Service is seeing its revenue slowly declining, while the competitive products part, like express mail and package delivery, the stuff Amazon uses, is going up. So Amazon is not what's hurting the post office. Perhaps the real problem could be that in addition to Amazon, Jeff Bezos also happens to own a certain publication that frequently gets under Trump's skin by reporting accurate news about him that he likes to tell his supporters is fake, namely the Washington Post. Join me now to discuss: Gabe Sherman, correspondent at Vanity Fair; Tiffany Cross, co-founder and managing editor of The Beat DC; Michelle Bernard of the Bernard Center for Women, Politics, and Public Policy; and Kurt Bardella, president of the media company Endeavor Strategies. Thank you all for being here. So, Gabe, Donald Trump, according to the Washington Post, his friends at the Washington Post, personally pushed the Postmaster General to double the rates on Amazon. And here's a little quote from Ed Brennan, who's the Postmaster General, has so far resisted Trump's demand, explaining on numerous occasions occurring this year that these arrangements are bound by contracts and must be reviewed by regulatory commission. That's Megan Brennan, who's the Postmaster General. John Dean, who's the former Nixon White House counsel, tweeted the following. He said Trump's effort to get the USPS to hike rates on Amazon because Bezos owns the Washington Post is Nixon at his worst. Mm-hmm. Nixon had his aides undertake such dirty work to have deniability regarding such abuses of power. Yeah. Trump handles these impeachable abuses himself.
Yeah, there's so much going on here. This Post piece confirms what other people had reported, and myself included, back in April, that Trump wanted to go to war with Jeff Bezos. This is now the most concrete evidence that he tried to. What I find striking is that we see time and again, this is a president who has authoritarian instincts, but so far, in most cases, institutions have constrained him. In this case, the Postmaster General says that Trump couldn't do that. But the instinct is there, and as the Dean quote points out, this is troubling because it's not the sort of lower-level people in the White House. This is coming from the president who wants to use the levers of the state to punish his enemies.
And you have already, Tiffany, Donald Trump potentially intervening in the Time Warner merger because he doesn't like CNN. He doesn't like the way CNN reports on him. Threatening companies using his Twitter handle, levering their stock price up and down depending on what he says about them. We reported last week that you had CEOs scrambling after the election to figure out how to deal with him because they were afraid that he could hurt them from the White House. This is not normal American presidential behavior.
It's not. The only thing I find surprising about it is the surprise of everybody else. Because this is somebody who has consistently used his position of privilege and power to attack his enemies, as Gabe said. In the 80s, when he wanted to expand his own casino empire, he attempted to mount a hostile takeover against the two competing casino companies. In 2000, he was fined $250,000 for stopping an Indian casino from opening because he thought they would be a competitor. It's also worth noting that same year he was fined $200,000 for keeping black employees away from a mafioso who used to visit his casino. We all know what he did to the people who lived in the rent-controlled building. Yep. He employed every dirty trick. He turned off their heat, their water, took out ads in these newspapers he hates so much to offer newspapers or homeless people, rather, to live in the buildings just to intimidate people who live there. So none of this is surprising. This is very consistent. I think the challenge with him in the Washington Post, why he doesn't understand the separation between Jeff Bezos and the news operation, is because he's so used to dealing with the National Enquirer. And these are people who catch and kill stories to protect their friend. Yep. The Washington Post is not like that. I would say they're a paper of record. I mean, it's fine if you think they skew one way or another, but you can't argue with the facts. And consistently, if somebody gives bad press to him, he considers it fake news. But also, at the end of the day, Donald Trump's a hater. I mean, Jeff Bezos is a successful businessman, and Donald Trump, despite what he says, we haven't seen his tax returns. We don't know how successful he is. And so I think a part of this is just being jealous about Jeff Bezos having this record success that he's experiencing right now.
And Kurt, it's one thing, in a lot of ways, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, that Donald Trump's presidency is sort of the Donald Trump of New York that New Yorkers got used to dealing with. The things that Tiffany is talking about, sort of pushing around local officials, thinking he can buy off officials to get what he wants. Being part of the group of businessmen who lobbied to not have to put sprinklers above the 25th floor, so that lo and behold, when there's a fire in the building, there were no sprinklers on that floor because he successfully lobbied to get his way, and taking that to Washington. It is interesting to me that the base of the Republican Party, which claims to detest New York values, remember when Donald Trump defended New York values during the campaign, have really accepted these really fundamentally authoritarian, kleptocratic ideas, which are not typically the way an American president operates. But the base of the Republican Party seems to have no problem with this kind of behavior.
I'd like you to imagine if a Democratic president was declaring war on a major private enterprise that creates countless of jobs, contributes to our economy, what Republicans in the base would be saying about that political person. It's amazing to me that Republicans have completely, once again, flipped on their own orthodoxy and are sitting by and okay with the president declaring open warfare on a private company that creates jobs. This is the party that says all the time, we're about jobs, we're about the economy. Here is the president of the United States, a Republican, the leader of their party, using his office, abusing his office to try to seek retribution against a job creator. It defies logic, it defies the orthodoxy that the Republicans have spent the last 2 decades saying that they stood for. And I'm waiting to see where Republicans are going to stand up and finally say, hey, this is insane, because if it's Jeff Bezos and Amazon today, it could be anybody tomorrow.
Yeah, well, keep waiting there, Kurt, because that's not going to, I don't think the standing up is going to happen. I think Republicans have made it pretty clear they ain't doing that.
It is Monday, the 21st of May of 2018, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is River City Hash Mondays. That's right, folks. It's been a busy weekend, and, we'll throw everything together and see what comes up. Well, my God. Lurching from one constitutional crisis to another is just the new orange. You know that. Looks like Michael Cohen's going to be on his own. He's being left out to dry as his scandals become, indefensible. And that's what mobsters do. If the feds are on you too much, you make sure the guy doesn't talk, and goodbye. Trump says that China's now going to buy massive amounts of U.S. farm products now that the Chinese gave him a bunch of money, a Chinese bank backed him for $500 million for a hotel or some resort in Indonesia. So everything's fine now. Trade war is over. Stocks are going up since the trade war with China is over. Look. You just got to pay off Big Daddy, and everything will be fine. And it looks like countries, not just Russia, but countries were lining up to try to see if they could get some sort of influence. Meaning, hey, Donnie, if we give you some money, will you advance our agenda? And Donnie said, yeah. And unfortunately, that was picked up during a counterintelligence investigation. And now Trump wants the Justice Department to investigate Obama spying on him while he was taking bribes from foreign countries who were going to help him win the presidency. I mean, this is what dictators do before they become actual dictators. Putin did. All right. Well, that Texas gunman, he was such a quiet kid. The one that shot up the high school. He was such a quiet kid. Yeah, he wore a trench coat. Was such a quiet kid. He was so quiet that he had harassed one of the girls he killed for 4 months. In the cafeteria, in classroom, here and there. So quiet. She had enough and embarrassed him, I think, as the story goes, in a class. And that was a bridge too far. So, I saw some advice on social media that actually I was taught, and I would teach the young men, boys in my life, and when I was teaching and when I was coaching. Kid comes in, says, I asked this girl out, and she said no. And I would say, well, you know what you got to do next? And they say, yeah, I know. I got to try again and try again and try again. And I would say, no. She gave you an answer. Leave her alone. It's simple. Now, give kids guns. Oh, I know. It was Dad's gun, so it's okay. Do any of these parents, literally, do any of these parents, I haven't really heard the news on that. Are they hauled into court and made to stand as being, an accomplice? Even an ignorant accomplice can be an accomplice. Happens all the time. I didn't know I was the getaway driver in that car. I know civil liabilities are culpable in this. In fact, I think one of the Parkland parents are suing the dad of that kid. Well, what are we going to attend to today? Well, of course, the Republican base's willingness to ignore Trump's attacks on Amazon. It's a private company. All the things they accused Obama of. And Obama never did. And this guy does it. And so I guess it was just because Obama was black. Well, jeez. And that was Joy Reid and her panel over the weekend, deconstructing that argument. And now that seems like old news. That was just Saturday. Or maybe it was Sunday. I can't remember. It's so long ago now. And then on the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, the RNC has paid over $500,000. That's $500,000 for Hope Hicks's legal fees from donations meant for campaign war chests. Well, I think that if you went to the base and asked them, do you feel bad that your donation is going to Hope Hicks? And they go, who's Hope Hicks? And they show her a picture and they go, that pretty girl, that monster Mueller's trying to take her away, the beast. Here, take my money. Yep, rubes. And they hate the rubes. It was no accident former Trump campaign aide Sam Nunberg endangered the life of an FBI source when he blurted out his name on MSNBC. On MSNBC. Live TV is what I'm trying to say as well. Okay, well, we spoke about an FBI asset of some capacity, their life and lives being endangered, and so there they go. It was no accident. And we are shocked. The notorious progressive anti-Hillary conspiracy blogger, H.A. Goodman, is now pro-gun and campaigning for Trump 2020. I know. You go from Bernie bro to Trump bro. It's easy. You never have to change the bro part. After the break, we then move to the chef's table, where the FBI has made arrests of a cybercrime extortion group that has plagued health and dental clinics, schools, law firms, and even Netflix. And Missouri cops are ripping off school kids by keeping asset forfeiture monies for themselves instead of the schools that they promised it would go to. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com are, of course, to the right of the page, the chat room link that is monitored by Roaring Girl, Kelly Lincoln, and on the leftish of the homepage down there, across from the chat room link, are the contribute, donate buttons, very integral parts to the operation of our endeavor here, and thank you for your generosity. The modem lights are blinking in their proper protocol, and that's always good, so thank you. And you can follow Netroots Radio on Twitter at Netroots Radio. Tom administers that and does it quite deftly, by the way. You could follow us on Facebook if you want. I mean, people sometimes do. I'm still sharing pictures with friends on Facebook and family. I may be getting in trouble. We'll see. You can follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam, and follow me also, or not follow me, but you could actually follow me on Daily Codes, where I am Justice Putnam, and that is where I publish the show notes and links on my diary there about 10 minutes before showtime each Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Oh, and also when I do my music show on Sundays too, they go up then too, so check that out sometime. Oh, what else? Podcasts. Of course, podcasts of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy can be had by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Well, there's so much news, just breaking this morning. I should not, during that little break, I should not have looked at the news, because I put myself in a bubble and I don't look at things after I've made the cutoff. This is it. This is all I'm going to take on. I can't write copy. I can't make it up in my head as we go along. This is it. But, so Trump will be swearing in a new CIA director today. And, he's going to Langley to do that. At the same time, today he's raging against Brennan for opening. Apparently, Brennan and Obama had it out for Trump, and investigated him in a counterespionage fake news spy investigation to benefit the Hillary campaign. Now, I'm a little confused because, as far as I know, Hillary did not win. So I don't know how this benefited the Hillary Clinton campaign. But, the guy's a crazy mobster, and he thinks only the way mobsters think, and he doesn't have any idea about a representative democracy. And the rules don't apply to him, and we'll see how it works when he's in jail, because he better be going to jail, folks. Okay, we better get on to Hope Hicks' legal fees, because she's going to jail, too. When you lay down with dogs, you might get put in the kennel. They might not be able to tell the difference. You get a little mangy. This is by Sarah K. Burris, or as we like to refer to her around here as the great Sarah K. Burris. Out of Raw Story. Former White House Communications Director Hope Hicks might have been a Democrat in the past, but the Republican Party has forked over nearly $500,000 in legal fees for the longtime aide to Donald Trump. If Republican donors are bothered by the stack of scandals lining up for the head of their party, they're likely even less happy about the fact that their large donations are going straight out the door to lawyers for Trump's staff. The RNC's almost $500,000 payment to Trout, Casheris, and Janice adds to the mounting legal fees associated with the investigations by Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III and several congressional committees of Russian interference in the 2016 presidential campaign, the Washington Post wrote. Now, Hicks hired Robert Trout in September 2017, and according to an FEC report filed yesterday, he had continued to be paid for over 6 months. There are 3 lawyers in the firm that currently represent people being investigated by Mueller, and that's what the firm's site said. Now, the substantial campaign funds being forked over for Trump team legal fees prompted some party officials to look at a separate legal defense fund last year. And the RNC decided, however, that they could use the party to pay for Trump's legal fees. And the RNC has bragged about outraising the DNC for several financial quarters. But, of course, their Democratic counterparts don't see their donations going out the door to pay for mounting legal fees. The bad thing about this reportage by the great Sarah K. Burris is that if this ever gets on Fox News, Trump and his cronies are going to make sure that happens. Next offering here at the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays, is out of Share Blue Media by Tommy Christopher. Well, it looks like Trump campaign aides and aides in general went on the news programs yesterday, Fox and others, and exposed the identity of a confidential FBI informant, which Senator Mark Warner has warned could be a crime. Well, Nunberg did just that by divulging the name of a person reporting, suggesting that he knows who the mystery informant is. Alex Witt had referenced reports that an unidentified professor had met with Trump campaign officials, and she noted that would hardly make him an implanted spy, as Trump has claimed. And then Nunberg had said, Alex, the Washington Post, not the New York Times, reported that when, and then he named the informant. That's his name when he met with Sam Clovis. Well, Share Blue Media is censored the professor's name. You can find it elsewhere. You'll see it. Fox News personalities Pete Hegseth and Laura Ingraham also began saying the professor's name on live television over the weekend. And while other media figures have been speculating about the source for weeks, legitimate news outlets have avoided naming the professor because it endangers his life and the lives of other people that may be in, part of the broader investigative techniques of law enforcement. Well, it's no coincidence that Nunberg's outburst coincided with Trump's demand that the Justice Department undertake a politically motivated investigation of the issue. Now, at worst, the Justice Department would comply, obliterating its own independence. in investigating itself. There's some question on whether Rosenstein actually did capitulate. His statement was a bit broader. I thought maybe Rosenstein is a toady. Under further assessment of a statement, it pretty much is investigating who might be part of a campaign. And if someone's spying on a campaign, they better know who that Russian might be. He didn't say that. Republican leaders Ryan and McConnell still refuse to protect Mueller's investigation. But after a year of bombshells from the probe, Trump and his allies are clearly panicking. And if they're willing to name an FBI informant on live TV, there is no telling what they'll do next. Offering here at the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, is by Martin Sismar out of Raw Story. During the brutal 2016 Democratic Party primary, H.A. Goodman established himself as a forceful and influential pro-Bernie blogger. Writing for Salon and Huffington Post and posting selfie videos to his popular YouTube channel, Goodman was oft cited by Bernie Sanders' most hardcore supporters. He was described by the Washington Post as the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, and he was invited on CNN and MSNBC to advocate for Bernie Sanders. Goodman has now changed his tune. He is now a pro-Second Amendment YouTube channel content provider and is now openly supporting Trump's 2020 re-election bid on his Twitter account. The new YouTube channel basically just follows Goodman as he fires a weapon at a range, but is interesting given Goodman's past life. Goodman pushed the scandal about Hillary Clinton's emails, the debunked conspiracy theory about a uranium deal, and even Benghazi. He wrote that Hillary Clinton was certain to be indicted for deleting her emails and that she should therefore concede to Bernie. After Bernie lost to Clinton, Goodman urged Bernie to contest the Democratic convention and then finally urged fellow diehard Berners to vote for Jill Stein. That's one way of splitting the vote. Now, while he calls himself a former liberal on a Second Amendment channel, Goodman is arguing to fellow progressive followers that the Mueller investigation is bunk. Well, the author, columnist, and journalist is also still talking about Hillary Clinton's unencrypted email server on his main channel. Well, I guess he's doing Big Daddy's work. Talk about implanting someone in a campaign to spy and do agent provocateur stuff. Who would have thought? Well, that brings us to the point where we better get to our break. We better. And we'll be back to go through weather from around the world and finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Larry Greenmeyer.
So how can I help you?
Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd.
Sure, give me 1 second.
The person making the haircut appointment for her boss? She's not a person.
Mm-hmm.
There's a trend rapidly developing in AI. Have it do the things we don't want to do. Self-driving cars get a lot of attention in this arena, but Google recently demonstrated AI for more mundane tasks. Their system is called Google Duplex. It's a voice assistant designed to mimic the way humans speak to one another.
Sure, what time are you looking for around?
At 12 p.m.
Amazon, Apple, and other tech companies also make voice assistants, of course. What's new with Duplex is that it can carry on a conversation seemingly as a human being, that is, somewhat awkwardly. And that's the point, of course. Google doesn't want Duplex to sound like a machine. In the hair salon example, the woman who answers the phone throws Duplex a curveball.
At 12 p.m.
We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
There's a point in the exchange where Duplex shows its true colors, though. Listen carefully and you'll hear a distinct difference between the AI's pronunciation of 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.
Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.?
For just an instant, Duplex's mismatched tones remind you of being on hold with your bank. Your wait time is 10 minutes. A second Duplex clip is a bit more impressive because the person answering the phone doesn't seem to be fully paying attention. Duplex tells the woman 3 times that he wants to come by on Wednesday.
How may I help you?
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Wednesday the 7th.
For 7 people?
It's for 4 people.
4 people? When?
Today?
Tonight?
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
For 4 people, you can come.
How long is the wait usually to be seated?
For when? Tomorrow or weekday or?
For next Wednesday.
Duplex has a ways to go before it'll be ready to handle open-ended conversations on random topics. But one day you may be free from all kinds of unpleasant vocal interactions, leaving more time for unpleasant social media interactions.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Larry Greenmeyer.
Welcome to 60 Second Civics, the daily podcast of the Center for Civic Education. I'm Mark Gage. Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, given on November 19, 1863, recognized the central importance of founding-era principles to the meaning and destiny of America. He noted that 87 years had passed since the birth of a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. He praised the men who fought and died at the Battle of Gettysburg for the ideas that have united and sustained the American people, and he urged his fellow citizens to resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth in freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. These elegant words signify the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln to the people of America. That's all for today's podcast, 60 Second Civics, where civic education only takes a minute.
Does the Constitution require a unanimous verdict in a criminal case? I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. The answer is yes. And no. Yes, in all federal criminal prosecutions because the Sixth Amendment says so. But not necessarily in state court prosecutions because the Supreme Court has ruled that the right to a unanimous jury verdict is not so fundamental that it is binding on the states. Most rights in the Bill of Rights are binding on the states through the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause, which says, quote, no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. But not a unanimous verdict in a criminal case. That's an oddball exception. That said, almost every state, 48 to be exact, require unanimity in all criminal prosecutions. The exceptions are Louisiana and Oregon. And in Louisiana, the legislature and the voters soon will determine whether it will change its rule that 10-2 is good enough to convict a person of a felony in that state. The proposed change should pass. As the recent New York Times editorial on this topic put it, quote, majority rule is good when it comes to the democratic process, but it's not enough when someone's constitutional rights and liberty are at stake. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
The Koch brothers' extremist political agenda of empowering multinational corporations to reign as sovereigns over the majority will of the people has always been inextricably entwined with the profiteering agenda of their wholly owned $100 billion a year industrial conglomerate. The brothers' plutocratic view of business as government even has a name, Pompeo, as in Mike Pompeo, the Trump regime's latest Secretary of State. Years ago, while living in the billionaire brothers' hometown of Wichita, Kansas, Mike got lucky when they pumped a load of Koch capital into a business he had started, turning him into a millionaire. Then they partnered with him in another business that essentially made him a Koch Industries subsidiary. In 2010, they turned this business asset they'd created into a political asset, providing the money from Koch PAC and the backing of their right-wing front group to elect Pompeo to serve as the congressman from Koch. The brothers even installed a Koch Industries lobbyist to run his congressional office. So Mike's been a loyal Koch head, conferring with them and backing bills to advance their corporate and political fortunes. Their investment in Mike became a bonanza last year when he became Trump's yes man as the head of the CIA. And now they've hit the political jackpot, with Pompeo becoming head of the State Department. On everything from international oil deals that profit multinational giants like Koch Industries to supporting the brothers' relentless opposition to all global efforts that would restrict fossil fuel profiteers from causing more climate change. The Koch's personal political insider is now their global corporate asset. This is Jim Hightower saying, to keep up with how Mike converts Koch-headed corporatism into U.S. foreign policy, go to www.prwatch.org/topics/Koch-exposed.
If you like these feisty pops of populism that Hightower zings out on the airwaves, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter provides the in-depth lowdown on what the greed heads of Wall Street and the boneheads of Washington are doing to us behind the scenes. With Hightower's saucy Texas humor and truth-telling populist perspective, the lowdown literally can lift you up. And get this, you can have the lowdown delivered to your mailbox or email each month for only $15 a year. Yes, 12 issues, only $15. Check it out, hightowerlowdown.org.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1913. That was the day Philadelphia longshoremen walked off the job. Led by the industrial workers of the world, the strike was remarkable for its militancy, its industrial unionism, and its interracial organizing. The Wobblies had been fighting to organize workers in the city for years. Unionizing efforts included Amalgamated Local 57, which organized workers across whole industries. Attracted to the IWW's message of interracial unionism, black longshoreman Ben Fletcher joined up readily and soon emerged as an early leader of Local 57 and then Longshoremen's Local 8. In his book, Wobblies on the Waterfront, historian Peter Cole notes the origins of the local started with the striking sugar refinery workers on the banks of the Delaware. Dockers made contact with the IWW during the strike and drew up a list of grievances and demands. And by this day in 1913, 1,500 longshoremen struck for a leveling of the hourly wage for all workers, regardless of skill, shorter hours, and union recognition. They held strike meetings every day and elected a committee of 15 with representatives from every ethnic and racial group. Cole notes this was crucial, given the diversity of the dock's 4,000 workers. More than a third were black, another third were immigrants. The committee included Poles, Jews, blacks, Irish, and others. Strikers took on their employers and also the police. Beatings, intimidation, and arrests of strikers occurred daily and intensified as the ship owners attempted to herd in scabs. 1,200 coal and iron ore handlers joined in on the strike. The port was solidly shut down, and by the end of the month, the shippers were forced to concede to most of the Wobblies' demands. Industrial unionism and interracial solidarity had won the day.
From United Nations headquarters in New York, I'm Luke Vargas with your World in 2 Minutes. The UN's top human rights official, Jordanian Prince Zayed Ra'ad Al Hussein, accused the Israeli government on Friday of misrepresenting the threat posed to Israeli troops on Monday, when Israeli live fire killed at least 60 people in clashes along the Israeli-Gaza border.
Although some of the demonstrators threw Molotov cocktails, used slingshots to throw stones, flew burning kites into Israel, and attempted to use wire cutters against the two fences between Gaza and Israel, these actions alone do not appear to constitute the imminent threat to life or deadly injury which could justify the use of lethal force.
He went on to describe the residents of Gaza as being penned in behind fences and suffering from ever greater poverty as Israel's decade-long blockade of Gaza drags on.
They are, in essence, caged in a toxic slum from birth to death, deprived of dignity, dehumanized by the Israeli authorities to such a point it appears officials do not even consider that these men and women have a right, as well as every reason, to protest.
Gaza residents did receive slight relief on Friday as Egypt announced it would open its Rafah border crossing with Gaza for the month of Ramadan, which ends on June 14th. According to Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, opening the border crossing is an attempt to alleviate the burdens of the brothers in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Kuwait, a current member of the UN Security Council, has proposed that an international protection mission be sent to Gaza to shield civilians, though it's unclear what form that protection force would take or how the resolution could survive a veto from the United States. Luke Vargas, the United Nations.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. River City Hash Mondays, that's our daily special. Well, let's begin with weather from around the world, and we always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 51 degrees Fahrenheit. It is morning still. And we are slated for a high of 82 to 85. 82 for the general report, but my experience here at Positively 3rd and Marie, where the mothership of Netroots Radio, is moored currently. It's a little bit different. We're up on a hill. And it'll be a little bit warmer here, so I expect it maybe to be around 85. Winds are out of the west-southwest right now at about 3 miles per hour. Will be increasing later on this morning out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and then we'll shift later on this evening out of the west-northwest, but remaining at its usual 5 to 10 miles per hour. We will be near 90 tomorrow, which means by Wednesday, we'll have some thunderstorm activity that will last almost to the weekend, and it looks like we could get 2 inches of rain from thunderstorms in that amount of time. We'll see. If things, high pressure is out there, it might push it away. But the mixture of hot and cold is what creates electricity in the atmosphere. I like it. Okay, so let's see. Grass pollen allergens are still very high. Air quality index is good at 17 parts per million, getting a little high in the good category, though. UV index is very high at 8. And, so take care if you're in an area with those numbers of UV. Pressure is, steady, though high pressure dominates at 29.95 inches. Visibility is about 10 miles. It's rising quickly, so I would say 10 miles right now. And humidity is at 88%. My. Well, weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these personal purchased weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Alrighty. London is 69 and sunny. Paris is 75 and partly cloudy. Rome is 71 and mostly cloudy. Both Paris and France are under disruptions due to rain. So they have a watch going on right now. Big storm happening from France all the way into Italy. Amazing. Kiev is 65 and partly cloudy. Kabul is 59 and mostly cloudy. Hong Kong is 79 and clear. Tokyo is 67 and fair. Sydney, Australia is 55 and clear. San Francisco, California is 52 degrees and sunny. And they do have a small craft advisory right now, so do take care. Winds are out of the west-southwest at, 20 to 30 miles per hour. That's quite stiff. And they will be shifting later tonight, maintaining later tonight out of the west-southwest at 15 to 25 miles per hour. So if you're out on the bay, it's one big bathtub, and the resonant waves created by wind can be rather treacherous. So do take care. And, here we go. And New York is 59 degrees and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these personal purchase weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. First offering here at the Chef's Table of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Ash Mondays, is by Tim Johnson out of the McClatchy D.C. Bureau. Yes, indeed, McClatchy. The FBI appears to have made headway in cracking a cybercrime extortion group that has plagued health and dental clinics, schools, law firms, and even Hollywood production companies since 2016. Serbian authorities, saying they were working with the FBI, arrested a 38-year-old man believed to be a member of the Dark Overlord, the nation's interior ministry said in a statement. The aim of the campaign was to uncover a large number of people who, using the name the Dark Overlord on the internet have gained unauthorized access to computer networks and data of at least 50 victims since June of 2016. The FBI declined to comment. Yeah, they don't like to leak. And when they do have leaks, it usually comes out of the Manhattan office. The rogue New York Bureau. Not this time. Hackers from the Dark Overlord have breached scores of U.S. institutions and clinics, freezing hard drives and demanding payment in Bitcoin as ransom to decrypt files, including medical records. Yeah, my mom fell for that, and I got caught up in it. What a chore it was to extricate their files out of the computers. God, it was such a drag. Yeah, she was convinced that she had to get their security suite. Yeah, she gave him permission to go into her hard drive. Mom, don't do that. In a Twitter direct message to a McClatchy reporter, the cybercrime group denied that the arrest of a man identified by Serbian authorities only as SS involved one of its members. No one's been arrested who operates within Dark Overlord organization, the message said, using British spelling. We're pleased to say that law enforcement is quite incompetent. Sure you are. The crooks always think they're smarter than the cops. We'll see. The group mocked the Serbian ministry statement, which translated through Google said the cybercrime group had hit some 50 victims, and the victims paid a total of more than $275,000. Business is better than ever, the Dark Overlord message said, and furthermore, we're pleased to announce that the figure quoted by Serbian authorities is quite underestimated, and in fact, we've earned a great deal more. Well, cheeky, aren't they? In its attacks on U.S. targets, the group routinely mocks and threatens victims and pressure for payment by releasing private medical records and social security numbers onto the internet. How nice. In a case last October, the group issued threats to individual parents and students at Johnston Community School District in suburban Des Moines, Iowa, that forced schools to shut for a day. Our local police and FBI were involved because we were like the third school district hit, said Laura Sprague, Director of Communications for the school district. I have to say that when I was 17, I had a part-time job at a furniture store, and I was taught never to say it's like the third school. It is the third school district, okay? And that's not like the third school district. But I don't know, their Director of Communications, they didn't have to take that class. Following the closure of schools on October 3rd, a tweet from an account used by the Dark Overlord warned that the group had released a school directory and that any child predator can now easily acquire new targets and even plan based on grade level. Well, that's one way to get the parents to pay up. Fear is always a great seller. And the fear of sex, too, especially when it's your own child, which is not necessarily a misplaced fear. I would say it'd be a concern. I would think that one shouldn't let their fears rule them, but reason should. But I don't know. When you've got a group of people that can dox and already have, do you think they're going to... It's just, these guys are monsters. Other school districts in Montana, Tennessee, and Texas were also subject to ransom demands from Dark Overlord, and dental and health clinics in Florida, New York, California, Missouri, and Oklahoma reported breaches linked to the group, followed by ransom demands. Good thing that we took the cybersecurity expert out of the government. We don't need those. A look at the Twitter accounts used by the group indicates that the list of victims is longer. The group gained some notoriety in April of 2017 when it released 10 unaired episodes of the 5th season of the Netflix hit show Orange is the New Black, declaring that the Los Gatos, California streaming media company had declined to pay a ransom. 2 months later, the group released 8 unaired episodes of ABC's Steve Harvey's Thunderdome show. In an encrypted chat with a McClatchy reporter last year, I think it was this reporter. I mean, not this reporter here in Netroots Radio, but the reporter here writing for McClatchy. A member of the group displayed the swagger and vulgarity that also marks the group's Twitter feed. The person suggested that the group did its victims or clients a favor by pointing out security flaws in their computer networks. It's easier to sign on as a client and pay up than it is to fight us. You will lose and fall with a great thud, the person told McClatchy at the time. The group had suggested on Twitter that some victims minimize damage that they have suffered. And, it is true we breached the Waverly Police Department. However, we stole far more than they admitted, and we're going to prove them wrong. Cheeky.
Danser maintenant sous l'été, les pieds nus dans le sable. Danser maintenant et jeter vos ennuis dans les vagues qui dansent.
All right, finishing up here at the chef's table, a West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is an article by Philip Smith of the Independent Media Institute. Now, it's very frustrating when dealing with asset forfeiture. Missouri has responded to a myriad of tales of abuse like many other states, and they reformed their asset forfeiture laws to require a criminal conviction before cash or property is seized in a bid to prevent policing for profit. And that requires money seized by state law enforcement agencies go solely to the state's schools. But you know that old adage, I mean, we heard it in the Harrison Ford movie, give a rat a cookie. What are they going to want? Well, in this case, it's not just a glass of milk. They want a milk truck, they want a banana split, and they want the whole ice cream parlor too. All right? Give a rat a cookie. Well, somebody needs to tell these cops that, hey, you got to give these monies to the kids. A Kansas City TV station reported state law enforcement agencies seized more than $19 million in the past 3 years, but only $340,000 has actually made it to the schools. That's a measly 2% of the seized cash. Well, 98% administrative overhead. It happens. It does, especially when you're buying up tanks. Because the manufacturers apparently of tanks can't, they have so many that with all the wars going on, they can't sell them as fast enough. And, of course, the cops can do this because of help from the Trump Justice Department. They're doing an end run around state law. Under the Justice Department's Equitable Sharing Program, which was suspended late in the Obama administration but reinstated last year by Jeff Sessions, state and local law enforcement agencies can hand their cash-laden cases over to federal prosecutors instead of turning them into local district attorneys. And when they do, the reporting agency gets to keep 80% of the seized cash, with the Justice Department getting the other 20%. The scheme subverts state law not only by diverting much-needed funding for the schools to police agencies, but also by allowing state and local cops to seize cash and goods under the federal law, which does not require a criminal conviction first. How nice. But, the cops just kind of like that just fine. Yeah, so okay. Well, the Missouri School Board begs to differ. Absolutely, the Constitution says that it is the law to give the schools the money. We have school districts that don't have air conditioning concerns or have concerns about asbestos. Yeah, I would want to get some money put in there real quick. Now, if the cops' motto is to protect and serve, I think by allowing asbestos to remain in the schools might be violating their code of honor. Well, they're thieves in this instance, and not only in this reporter's opinion, but apparently through too many in the state of Missouri. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, and it's been fun. I don't know, sorry for slurring my words here and there. It is Monday. And it was a busy weekend, yes, indeed. But we'll meet up with you tomorrow for Terrytown Chowder Tuesday. Stay tuned to Netroots Radio for the rest of the day, breaking news as it happens. So visit with us tomorrow in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver, dans mon jardin d'hiver.